Is the Walmart exclusive G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Crimson Guard different enough from the standard release? We answer this question and more on Toy Habits Reviews. And before we dive into the review, smash that like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a beat. Hey everyone, welcome back to Toy Habits Reviews, and we are taking an up-close and personal look at the Walmart exclusive G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Crimson Guard and comparing him to his standard release and his vintage figure. So let's dive into the details and take a closer look. And let's start off by looking at the retro G.I. Joe Classified Series Crimson Guard on card. And what I'm going to do now is bring in the vintage illustration from 3D Joe's, and I don't have the vintage figure on card to reference, so 3D Joe's is a fantastic reference. As you can see, some of the similarities and differences here are with the shoulder insignias that are different. The retro G.I. Joe Classified Series version is an updated illustration, but it ties in very nicely with the vintage card. Now, taking a closer look at the card, we can see that the Crimson Guard is packed in the window display on the retro card back, and you can see all of the accessories that come with him. Even there is a stand packed in to the left of his leg there. But the illustration looks amazing and wonderful to add to the G.I. Joe Retro Classified Series collection. And taking a look at the back of the card, you can also see the very large file card that is translated into 4 other languages in addition to English. You can also see the cross-sell of the latest Walmart exclusive G.I. Joe Classified Series retro line being Storm Shadow, Zartan, the Crimson Guard, of course, and Snake Eyes. And we've just broken the Crimson Guard out of his plastic prison, so let's take a closer look at the figure starting at the top. And as you can see, the helmet paint app has a nice silver paint app that covers all of the face mask, which is different than the version 1 release, which we will take a look at. He also has the silver insignia at the top and a black visor covering his eyes. And all the way around the side, you can also see some of the angular detail that they put in the helmet, and on the back of the helmet you can also see just some of the angles that they have in here. They're not really harsh and they're very subtle, which is very nice for this figure. And moving down to the chest, you can see the beautiful Cobra symbol that is dead center in the chest. You can also see the insignia ranks and ranking on the shoulders and on his upper left chest right there. You can also see the silver detail and the rope that is tied around his shoulder and goes all the way around his socket there. Looking at the arms, they are pretty basic. It's just your classic Crimson Guard arm. There is some silver detailing around the forearm bracer, and he does have black gloves. The piece de la resistance on the left side of the figure is that wonderful Cobra insignia enclosed in that upside down triangle, and you can also see the silver markings on the left bracer as well. All right, and moving down to the midsection of the figure, you can see his belt with his insignia here that is in silver, and you can also see the knife sheath on the side here. And if you turn him around, there's some nice belt detail with some pouches around the back, and as you turn him around to the side, you can also see the place where you can plug the sword in, and it's very nice belt design all around. And you can also see the waist and how it's decorated in silver lines and little silver rectangles. His arse is just pretty plain, and we can move on to his legs. And moving down to the legs, you do see some defining lines, and you do also see this silver striping here. You just have to worry about the articulation joints just misaligning those lines, but it actually looks like he's wearing pants because they kind of bunch up in the boots. And on the left side, it's pretty much the same sculpt, but they've added a red holster with a black band going around his thigh. And then moving down to the boots, you do see some really nice detail and a nice pouch that's on the side. There is some buckle detail, and it actually really has a really nice boot and shoe design. And taking a closer look at the weapons and accessories that the Crimson Guard comes with, let's take a look at the knife first. And the knife has some really nice detail on the handle here. You can see that it looks like a snake that is opening its mouth with a fang, and really nice detail for a very small accessory. So it's got also a nice blade to it too. And then also taking a look at the pistol, it's the same pistol that comes packed with the standard Crimson Guard, and it just also has some nice detail and some nice texturing to it for a very tiny accessory. We can also take a look at the sword, and again, the sword handle is meant to look like a snake as well, kind of matches the knife, and has some really nice detail on the handle, and the sword blade is also very nice as well. Also, he comes with his retro inspired AK-48A assault rifle with his bayonet. So it's a really nicely done weapon and has lots of details here for you to feast your eyes on. And finally, he does come with his red version of his backpack like we saw in the vintage figure. You can see the nice silver cobra symbol here, and also the strap and buckle detail with some nice texturing on the front. And on the back, you can also see some of the texturing and also the buckle detail as well. And here's the Crimson Guard all geared up, and you can see that he has a place to stow all of his weapons, which is really, really nice. The sword and sheath can attach to his backpack and also his AK-47 as well. His knife goes into his sheath on his belt, and his gun can go in this red holster here. And you also have the option to change out the placement of this sword and sheath and actually plug it in to his belt just to give him a different look. And one of the cooler things that you could do with these weapons now that the Joe team has put ports in for these blast effects, you can actually put in blast effects from other figures. So this is from the Viper 3-pack. So I think it looks super cool with just smoke coming out of the pistol here. And the AK-48 also comes with a port where you can plug in blast effects as well. And again, this is from the Viper 3-pack. So you can, it's very cool. You can kind of make it look like he's firing his weapon there. And the smoke effects are actually too big just because they run into the bayonet. So you're just limited to more of the longer, more slender blast effects with this gun. All right, it is comparison time, and what you can see here is the version 1 release of the Crimson Guard on the right and the retro G.I. Joe classified Crimson Guard on the left. And as you can see, the retro Crimson Guard has a much lighter paint app than the V1 release, and there are also some subtle differences here and there in the paint apps. So let's take a look at those, and we'll first zoom in to the helmet. And the obvious difference here is that the retro Crimson Guard has a full-on silver face shield, and as you can see, it actually makes this part look actually a lot fatter because it's also painted in silver, where on the black face shield they only put the silver in the middle part here, and so it actually makes it look a little thinner. You can also see the black visor covering his eyes here, and they also painted a silver visor covering his eyes on the V1 release. And moving down to the rope and shoulder rankings, you can see that there is a nice silver paint app that is adorning this rope here on the retro Crimson Guard. And then also there is a kind of a matte gray paint app, or actually I don't think it's painted, I think it's just casted gray plastic. But anyway, it's a gray ranking on his upper shoulders and the gray rope on his right. And other than that, they did give the two Crimson Guards different colored holsters. So one is black on the first release and the retro Crimson Guard has a red holster, and that's pretty much the only differences in the paint apps here. And as you can see, the pack out is essentially the same with a little differences between the version 1 release of the Crimson Guard and this retro G.I. Joe Classified Series Crimson Guard. And really the differences lie in the color of the backpacks. And as you can see, we have a black backpack with a silver Cobra symbol for the version 1 release and the red backpack for the version 2 release, which is the retro one. Really similar style and same style on the back here, just different color. All right, now we're going to bring in both versions of the Crimson Guard and his vintage figure just to show you where some of the inspiration came from for the particular paint apps and design. And ironically, the first release of the Crimson Guard actually looks and matches a lot better to the vintage release. And so that makes me wonder, did they get the paint app backwards for this particular release? Because as you can see, the vintage Crimson Guard and the V1 release are pretty much dead on matches for each other. And the retro Crimson Guard has a very different paint app in his upper body there, mostly the helmet and the face mask. And really the only comparison that I can make for the retro series right now is basically they are kind of mirroring the card art with these figures. And honestly, the figure is actually mirroring the card art, which I think is pretty apropos for this series, instead of kind of going with the vintage figure look. As you can see, just some of the differences here with the, black face shield and the black markings on the insignias. So I think for this particular line, the inspiration is really drawn from the illustrations and not from the vintage figures with respect to the paint app. All right, in closing, is this figure worth the price of admission? I think so if you're looking for a squad commander, in my opinion. The lighter shade and some of the paint app differences in the figure make the retro Classified Series Crimson Guard a perfect candidate for a squad leader, or if you prefer the original release as your squad leader, you could army build those. Let us know what you think about the figure in the comments below, and thanks for tuning into Toy Habits Reviews.